Hey everyone, welcome back to another Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're diving into one of the most fascinating parts of aquatic keeping, which is maintaining a truly healthy marine aquarium. We're going to break down the core systems that work silently behind the scenes to keep these incredibly complex environments thriving. We've got some really clear concepts to cover today, so let's just get right to it.
Seriously, think about it for a second. How exactly do you keep a miniature ocean alive right in your living room? The massive, high-stakes challenge here is managing enclosed biological waste before it turns into absolute toxic chaos. In the wild, the ocean's sheer volume just instantly dilutes waste. But in a glass box, without a dedicated system to aggressively pull that waste out, your environment would crash so incredibly fast. It turns out you need a dedicated engine.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the core ecosystem engine, check out protein skimmers or bubble filters, move on to sumps, map out our circulation, see how it all integrates, and finally cover some common pitfalls you'll want to avoid. All right, let's dive into this. Section 1, the core ecosystem engine. Let's look at the broad overview of this life support system. You can kind of think of your marine aquarium as being supported by these three main pillars. It's literally the plumbing, the lungs, and the heart of the tank. First, we've got protein skimmers, which physically yank dissolved organic waste right out of the water column. Second is circulation, providing that reliable, vital water movement. And third, sumps, which buffer daily environmental changes by adding a ton of extra water volume. Together, they form this amazing engine that neutralizes waste before it ever gets a chance to break down and hurt your livestock. Section 2, protein skimmers, essentially our bubble filters. Let's zoom in on that first pillar. Okay, so to get why a skimmer is so absolutely crucial, we first have to define our main enemy, DOCs, or dissolved organic compounds. This is all that invisible waste constantly being pumped into the water by fish, uneaten food, and decaying matter. If you just leave it unchecked, these compounds directly lead to foul odors, cloudy water, and this explosive nuisance algae growth that nobody wants. This is exactly what we're fighting against. So how do we actually pull that invisible junk out of the water? It's a pretty brilliant mechanical process, honestly. Step 1, a dedicated pump violently mixes air and water together. Step 2, this creates billions of tiny bubbles, and here's the cool part. Those organic compounds are drawn to the bubbles like sticky magnets. Step 3, as those bubbles rise, they form this thick, nasty foam that pushes its way up into a collection cup. Boom, the waste is literally lifted out of your system entirely. Now, picking one of these bad boys isn't just about looking at a box and seeing rated for 100 gallons. It's all about stability and compatibility. You've got to match the skimmer's size and airflow to your specific bioload, like how many fish you actually have. You also need enough contact time so the water interacts with the bubbles long enough to grab the waste. You definitely want one that allows for precise water level adjustments, fits right with your neck height, and yeah, for sure, you have to consider noise and power draw for daily use. You don't want a jet engine in your living room. Section 3, sumps and expanding the volume. Moving down the line, we arrive at our second pillar. Simply put, a sump is just a separate tank, usually hidden away in the cabinet under your main display. Think of it as your aquarium's basement. Gravity just feeds overflow water from the display down into this hidden reservoir. But guys, it is so much more than just a bucket holding extra water. What's really fascinating here is how adding this hidden water volume fundamentally changes the game. More water literally means slower changes. That extra volume smooths out dangerous temperature swings. It buffers salinity spikes when water evaporates from the top tank. And let's be real, from an aesthetic standpoint, it flawlessly hides all your ugly filtration gear so your main display looks totally pristine. This basement tank becomes the absolute heart of your life support. Open up a standard sump, and you'll usually find your protein skimmer, any mechanical filtration you're using, maybe a refugium growing macroalgae to soak up extra nutrients, plus your heaters, meter reactors, and of course the return pump pushing it all back up. And remember, your sump setup has to match your goals. A heavily fed reef tank is going to look totally different down there compared to a light, fish-only setup. Section 4, circulation and mapping the flow. Let's shift over to the delivery system connecting all of this together. We have to debunk a massive misconception right now. It is so easy to fall into the rookie trap of aiming for maximum flow. Blasting power heads like a washing machine, thinking more is always better. Actually, scratch that, it's almost never better. The expert approach, creating directional or alternating flow. You aren't just trying to move water violently, you're trying to move it smartly. Nailing your circulation is a true balancing act, requiring really careful mapping. Proper flow stops detritus from settling and rotting in dead zones. It reliably delivers oxygen and essential nutrients straight to your corals. Crucially, it ensures that dirty, nutrient-rich water is constantly swept into the overflow to feed that skimmer. And you have to do all this without stressing out your fish or blowing a massive crater into your sandbed.
Section 5. The integrated setup. Now, let's pull all three of these vital threads together into one complete engine.
Try to picture the physical journey of a single drop of water in this system. First, it overflows from the display, riding down into the sump. Second, it gets routed right past the skimmer's intake and through your filtration zones, getting aggressively stripped of waste. Finally, step 3, that crystal clear, highly oxygenated water gets pumped back up to the display, where your dialed-in circulation distributes it perfectly. It's a beautiful cycle. So I think this really hits the nail on the head right here. The skimmer reduces dissolved waste, the sump stabilizes volume, and circulation ensures the water you're filtering is actually the water your tank needs. These are not isolated pieces of gear. It is a deeply interconnected, holistic life support engine. If one part misfires, the whole thing suffers.
And that brings us to Section 6, avoiding common pitfalls. Because it's all so deeply connected, let's look at what can instantly ruin the balance.
Let's look at these high-stakes tuning pitfalls. Even top-tier equipment will fail you if you make these mistakes. Setting the wrong water level for your skimmer, you get zero consistent foam, making it totally useless. Bad float mapping creates toxic dead zones where debris just rots. If you overclean aggressively, you'll actually wipe out your good microbes. Under-maintaining your pumps is basically just a recipe for slow failure. But the absolute biggest pitfall? Expecting your protein skimmer to just magically fix everything while you totally ignore your feeding habits and overall flow. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this. Take a look at your own tank right now, or the one you're planning. Is your equipment truly working together as a finely tuned integrated ecosystem engine? Or are your really expensive components just running blindly, completely isolated in the exact same glass box? It is all about the synergy, guys. Go check your flow, dial in that skimmer neck, and make sure that ecosystem is actually humming. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.